Good to.
Okay, welcome. We're somewheres between Wisconsin Dells and Portage, and we're with some teachers that are doing a walk to protest the revenue caps. I'm going to let one of the organizers, I guess, talk a little bit about some of the walk and exploits thus far. Can you give us your name, sir?
My name is Randy Kunsch, Kunsch, and I'm from Phillips, Wisconsin. Indeed, I am a teacher who's on the walk to ask for revenue caps to be repealed. But it's not just teachers, it's citizens from around the state of Wisconsin. And to be really honest, I'm out here walking because of my daughter, who is a public education student, and some of the things that I've seen that have hurt her education because of revenue caps.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your daughter? How old is she and what does she do in school, and how is the revenue caps hurting her?
My daughter Lindsay is 12 years old. She just finished the 6th grade, will be entering 7th grade in the fall. Phillips Middle School is made up of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, approximately 250 members. Last year when she was in the 6th grade, they were divided into 3 sections, so all year she was in classes of 28 students. They could not afford to hire a 4th teacher to break those down into more manageable sizes, a better learning environment. She rides on school buses that are 10 and 11 years old with over 100,000 miles on them because the district can no longer afford to renew the buses on an annual basis like they used to. One of the things that I may be most upset about is, as a middle school student, of course the middle years, adolescence, are some of the most critical years in the social development. And this past year we had our guidance counselor who resigned to take another position, and as a cost-cutting factor they hired only a half-time person to fill that position. So next year for 250 students they'll have only a half-time guidance counselor. The technology. Computers have become so important to the modern and to the future world. Our school district is very blessed in that they have almost 300 computers throughout K through 12, but we have only one technology expert to care for all 300 of those. So when a problem comes up, it can be days or weeks before those problems are handled. And of course, bottom line is the kids suffer.
Listen, this is the issue. Is it a revenue cap or revenue caps? I mean, we have a disproportionate effect on different school districts. Now, is your school district especially feeling these cuts, or how do you characterize that?
Well, I think our school district, first of all, we were blessed with a really good business manager. And because of his ability to manage our finances, so I guess the word I will use is frugally, he has done and continues to do an excellent job, but we're now facing a bigger consequence because, of course, what our revenues were capped at were those figures that he had done so well to, hold back the cost. And now all of a sudden, as our costs go up, the cost of textbooks, the cost of electricity, the cost of everything that goes into running a school increase, now we're froze back at those lower figures. So actually the districts that did the best job of controlling their finances are now the ones who are paying the biggest price.
Explain that a little bit more. When, for the laypersons, it's just getting involved in understanding this issue. When you say froze, what restrictions are there placed on you and your decision making on how to spend the money that you have?
Okay, in 1992, the state legislature and Governor Thompson signed a bill that froze the amount of money that school districts can spend. Since that time, there's been a small increase based on inflation rates each year that a district can go up. For example, last year districts in the state of Wisconsin were allowed to spend approximately $209 per pupil. Well, if your district didn't have a very high spending figure in the past, in 92 or 93, and now suddenly all of those expenses have gone up, you're stuck back at those lower figures. Or if your enrollment is dropping, or things like, let's say we need a new building. Phillips is very fortunate in that we have pretty current buildings and such. But you build a new building, and now all of a sudden you have all the expenses that go into the building. You know, and you can't increase your spending any. You are allowed to increase your spending if the local voters vote in favor of a referendum saying that it's okay to increase spending. The only thing is, this is kind of a catch-22 that the politicians sometimes don't tell you about. Every time you put up a referendum in the form of an election, of course you have to pay for that election. So all the people who work the polling places, all the ballots, all of that costs money. Now let's say, as very often happens, that referendum is voted down. And of course the local school board knows that they need that money, so they tend to say to themselves, we didn't explain it well enough to the public. We have to bring this back to them again. So 6 months later, now when the need is even greater, or a year later, they now go back to the voters. And of course, there you've got the expense of the next election. So, you know, when a politician says to you, well, look, you can exceed because you can go to these referendums, they cost the district money too. It's just kind of a no-win situation for public education.
So what you're characterizing is the situation of trying to pay for the public schools is being held hostage to this referendum process?
Absolutely. Between the revenue caps and the referendums, yes, it's almost like they're being held hostage. When we started this march on June 7th, I used the example of being a farmer in Wisconsin, and you were told that next year you can't spend any more money on your farm than you spent in the previous year. But in the meantime, the price of your equipment has gone up, the cost of fuel to run that equipment, the vet has to come out to do some work with your cows because of, you know, inoculations for illness or whatever it might be, and all of a sudden you're stuck in that figure and you've got to make your farm run, and it has to be a success, and you want to make a profit. Public education isn't in it for the profit, but yet we are, because our children are the profit of the future. They're the investment that we need to pay off for us, not just in 1999, not just in the new millennium that's coming up, but for all future years.
Let's talk about some of the political end of this struggle. Who are the legislators that you have talked with, and who are the folks in the Thompson administration that you've talked with regards to this? You know, just laying it out generally.
Right. It's been really interesting. On May 1st, we had an informational rally that was held in Price County to coincide with the governor's fishing opener. And at that time, about 50 people from Price County met at the lake where the governor was fishing, and we had a petition asking for the repeal of revenue caps, and we wanted a brief time to talk with them. At that time, Governor Thompson chose not. And I invited them to come to our local community and hold an open forum, an open town meeting with the public to discuss revenue caps. Both of them agreed to come. I also contacted the governor's office, and both our state senator and state assemblyman said they would do what is ever necessary to adjust their schedule to meet when the governor could come. The response I got from the governor's office was from his secretary, who makes out his schedule, and she said the governor is too busy to come. We will send a substitute in his place. Well, here we are on June 15th, I believe it is today, and we're still waiting to hear the name of that substitute. When we decided to make the march to Madison to bring this attention to across the state as well as to our elected officials, I contacted again both my state assemblyman and state senator to let them know that please come out to the rally on the 17th. Please be in your offices afterwards so we can talk to you. And not only were they willing to do that, but at the same time they also emailed all the rest of the state assembly people and senators to notify them that, you know, their constituents would be in town.